You're listening to the And I Quote podcast brought to you by Coterie Insurance.
We will be bringing you conversations with industry influencers and experts discussing a variety of topics focused on our theme because relationships matter.
Now let's dive in. Hello, welcome to the And I Quote podcast. I'm Ashleigh Burden, one of the co-hosts of the podcast, and today I have the extreme pleasure of chatting with our guest, Tony Cañas. Tony is an amazing industry expert in the insurance space. He's the co-founder of Insurance Nerds, which is really, as most of us know, the go-to source for talent development and career management throughout the insurance industry. And then I'm just excited to jump in the conversation today because from hosting his own podcast to being a published author and speaker, creating networking opportunities for insurance professionals, Tony is someone who's really passionate about just supporting the overall insurance industry, but then really with a focus on millennials. So really excited to talk about that. And then you're also the senior recruiting partner at Goodwin Recruiting, overseeing the insurance and insurtech vertical. So first of all, welcome to the And I Quote podcast, Tony.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Very excited to have you on today. So, really just to get into it with our audience, let us know, more about you, your background, and what got you started in the insurance industry.
So I fell into insurance by accident, just like most people, basically. I get my CPCU in the first few months at Nationwide. That's kind of the big insurance designation,
Yep.
and I became really active both with CPCU and with Toastmasters.
Mm.
So Toastmasters public speaking training,
Okay.
and what is today Insurance Nerds
Mm-hmm.
started as just part of the nationwide Gen Y Associate Resource Group, or the Young Professional Associate Resource Group. But a lot of what I did in the Gen Y group was take what I had learned elsewhere,
Yeah.
just by having good mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and when I left, I really missed that work.
Yeah.
So I called Carly Burnham, who also
Yeah.
came from Nationwide. She was my co-founder at Insurance Nerds, and basically said, "Hey, I'd love to continue doing the work we were doing at Gen Y for the rest of the industry," and that's how Insurance Nerds was born. So Insurance Nerds is born as a blog to help you grow your insurance career.
Mm-hmm.
And then I happened to connect with this guy called Nick Lamparelli. He was looking. He became involved in this Silicon Valley VC world,
Yeah.
also because he was looking for funding to create an insurtech.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was a fan of what we were doing in Insurance Nerds. So we became friends, and he offered the idea, you guys should start a podcast. By sheer accident, number one, I'm there at the birth of InsurTech.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, Nick, who's actually seeing this happen much more clearly than I am, because he's much more embedded trying to get his own InsurTech off the ground,
Mm-hmm.
uh, builds this thing to like 150 episodes. And it comes back to me. So I inherit
And yeah.
the largest podcast in InsurTech. All I have to do was keep running it.
Running it. That's
So basically, my insurance career continues. I am very involved with CPCU. I keep running Insurance Nerds. Eventually, a lot of my focus has been how do we engage and retain millennials within insurance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yep.
and one of the things that Insurance Nerds does is chatwithtony.com,
Mm-hmm.
where any insurance or aspiring insurance professional can get on my calendar for free career advice. It's super rewarding to see them
Mm-hmm.
grow.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, it feeds me a lot of intelligence about what's going on
Mm-hmm.
with the talent, right?
Yeah.
So my clients who I recruit for, who are the ones that pay the bills,
Mm-hmm.
I can give them really good really good info on what's going on
Mm-hmm.
with the talent out there,
Yeah.
and especially what the young talent wants,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I talk to them every day. It's completely paying off,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because Chat with Tony feeds me a lot of candidates,
Yeah.
and not only that, it's been long enough that people that I had Chat with Tony conversations with have grown into
Wow.
leadership roles, and
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
come
Full
back and use
circle.
me as a recruiter. Same thing with the podcast. The podcast
Mm-hmm.
that basically fell into my lap,
Mm-hmm.
thanks to that story that I told you earlier.
Yeah.
nowadays feeds me a whole bunch of recruiting business also.
And I want to kind of tap into that a little bit because obviously you're talking to young professionals. You've grown as a professional. What is some of the best advice that either A, you've received or that you've even, given to those that you meet with and speak with throughout your day to day?
uh, Insurance and insurtech,
Mm-hmm.
which are ultimately kind of the same thing, just how much technology are we using,
Mm-hmm.
uh, is a fantastic career.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic career with a lot of crappy entry level jobs, right? So basically, if you fall into it, which is probably why you're listening to this episode,
Yep. Yep.
um, know that it's a fantastic career.
Mm-hmm.
Know that there's a whole bunch of roles that you just have no idea exist because you can't see them from where you're at.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
and know that it's a that the rabbit hole is very, very, very deep when it comes to
Yeah.
technical insurance. You will
Mm-hmm.
never run out of stuff to learn. Okay,
Yep.
so d- jump in with both feet and learn everything you can, starting with your day role,
Mm-hmm.
with your day job, starting with what you're doing today,
Mm-hmm.
and also learning the broad picture of the insurance ecosystem so that you can start finding places you can grow to, like the how to learn and how to
Mm-hmm.
find the ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because your company's probably not going to tell you, at least at a traditional carrier the company's
Yeah.
not going to,
Mm.
they might pay for it but they won't tell you. If you're in property casualty, ultimately, especially carrier side, you want CPCU,
Okay.
chartered property casualty underwriter.
Mm-hmm.
uh, the same organization does CPCU, does a bunch of other smaller ones, but you
Mm-hmm.
eventually want CPCU. If you're on the broker side, CPCU is fantastic, but CIC, the Certified Insurance Counselor, much more
Mm-hmm.
popular, much more recognized on the broker side.
Right.
So maybe that's where you want to start.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two big ones in PNC.
Yeah.
If you are in the professional line side of PNC,
Mm-hmm.
then our PLU
Mm-hmm.
is probably where you should
Okay.
start.
Okay.
And if you're in the life insurance side, then CLU
CLU.
is
Okay.
probably from the American College is
Mm-hmm.
probably the one to aim for ultimately. Having one of those four in your resume is going to make it much easier to get the next interview for any job in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
And also, any of those are going to give you a lot of knowledge that you can not only apply in your job,
Right.
but that in an interview, you can show a bigger picture understanding of what insurance is. And also, network, both internally and externally.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. Be nice to everybody because it's
Yeah.
this industry is this big. And
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the networking piece, that part was super easy for me,
Mm-hmm.
just because I'm an extreme extrovert. If you are not an extreme extrovert, if you're on the opposite end of the spectrum, and we have a lot of those
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Sure.
there are areas of insurance that attract and that really benefit from those types
Mm-hmm.
of personalities and those types of brains. I highly recommend Quiet by Susan Cain. It's a book that will teach you how to lean into your strengths as an introvert and come across the best you can in a business world that gives unfair advantages to extroverts like me. And to learn how to network very, very, very well, Never Eat Alone. Highly recommend those two books uh, all the time. They're probably the two that I recommend the most in Chat with Tony conversations. Uh, so and then find your community, whether both in your company. For me at Nationwide, it was the Gen Y group, and then outside the company, for me, it was the CPCU Society, and on the insurtech side, the best open, easy to get into community might be the Insurance Nerd Slack, which anybody can join at insuranceslack.com.
No, those
Uh,
all solid connects, and those are great. Like you said, especially someone just getting started. I actually remember the Insurance Nerd Slack channel, and just
awesome.
some of the insights and just being able to connect with. I'm specifically in the marketing vertical of insurance, but still being able to kind of tap into other brains, ask questions generally, and not feel judged for asking what might be amateur questions and things like that. But I think those are all great suggestions for networking. I think the advantage now of having an online online community, right? Like I think years ago probably was a little bit more challenging, but definitely having so many different forums for connecting online, I think has been really beneficial for those just getting started. But I want to circle back to something you were talking about. So now you've been able to like kind of develop, maybe some that are entry level in their careers and now they're into leaders. And then now some it's full circle, right? So now they're in the position to, retain and source talent from different areas. So what advice do you give to someone in that position, right? Like they've stepped into this leadership position, they're looking to grow their team, but maybe they want to do it a little bit differently than has been done traditionally in insurance. Like what's your thought process there?
Yeah. One thing that as an industry we do badly is our hiring process is long and painful. And it doesn't matter if you're brand new to the industry and trying to get your first insurance job or you're experienced, it's long and painful. The more that you can do to make your hiring process streamlined and less painful, you're going to benefit a lot. Another thing that we don't do very very well in the hiring process is being open-minded to transferable skills. So we are just obsessed, and not so the insurtech side. You guys are much better, but traditional carrier, traditional brokers, obsessed with specific experience coming from insurance. And I get it. This is a weird industry, uh, but uh, we're never going to solve our talent issues if we continue having the problems that we have recruiting. If we don't learn to be open minded to other backgrounds that were not insurance. So for example, right now in 2023, as we record, there's a fire sale on mortgage people, right? Because of high interest rates, it's hard to buy a house right now. So there's a lot of mortgage people out there with, let's say, 3 to 5 years of experience. It's an industry that's not too different from ours, right? It's another financial service. Generally, they have business degrees. We can teach them insurance, right? So be open minded to those kind of skill sets. There are times when like in 09, 10, 11, finance people were on fire sale, right? Because their industry had completely collapsed, and we were holding strong. So oh, and right now, right, the end of first quarter 2023, tech people, right? Tech has had, I don't know, 300,000 people have been downsized in the last 12 months. Amazing opportunity to bring those skill sets into the fold of the insurance side. Now, paying attention to that, paying attention to the alternative skill sets that 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 could be that could be easily
Yeah. Yeah.
trained into insurance is something
Yeah.
that we don't do well. We should learn to better
Yes.
integrate other skill sets. Absolutely.
I would agree with that. It's interesting, like similar non-traditional path into insurance. I came from the automotive industry and account management, and started getting experience like working with some of the larger carriers in that role. But coming over to Coterie, it's been like so interesting to me because I would say we're about, maybe 50-50, like half, legacy insurance carrier folks and half like completely other industries. But I think what that makes for is really innovative, ideas, concepts, things that we can really build, especially on the technology front, right? And so I think to your point, like that is where the industry has to head, where we just have to have more of an open mind in terms of transferable skills and knowing that insurance can't be taught, right? Like there's those other
Um,
things that can't be taught.
this is not rocket surgery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, the DEI side, crucially important. I came to DEI because of the generational side, right? So my interest was millennials, and then millennials grew into Gen Zers, who are significantly different. And I don't understand them nearly as well as I understand millennials. I've been working on it, but still, uh, both millennials and Gen Zers uh, consider DEI to be an absolute non-negotiable. This is not going away. This is just a reality of the business world going forward. And demographics is yeah, the demographics predicts the future. Basically, there's a better phrase. Demographics is destiny. Okay, demographically, we're gonna have to get much better at dealing with at better integrating DEI, and that goes for racial, that goes for LGBT, that goes for neurodiversity, right? And I'm sure if we were talking 2 years from now, we'll be talking about other things that we hadn't even thought about, right? Neurodiversity is a great example. We're talking about now. We really weren't thinking about it a few years ago. Or the T in LGBT, right? Trans issues we just were not thinking about 3 or 4 years ago. Um, Even in the traditional just racial diversity, right? Uh, we're still not good at recruiting from HBCUs, right? We need to get good at that. It makes no sense that we're not good at that. Uh, had a great conversation just a couple weeks, not a podcast recording, but just a great conversation a couple weeks ago with a friend from CPCU who like myself is not black, uh, but who's married to her partner is black. So because of that marriage, she's been able to see a lot more into that world, and she's trying to get her company, a very traditional insurance organization, to be more active with the HBCUs. And the really fascinating thing that she brought to me is this idea of you can't just show up at career fair, you have to be there the whole time, right? And the companies that do it well, none of them are insurance companies. The companies that do it well have a presence on campus from freshman year, right? I had no idea, right? That's not the world that I come from. Uh, those kinds of things we need to get much better at. Those kinds of strategic thinking when it comes to
Mm.
hiring,
Yep.
rather than just tactically how do we fill the
Right.
roles we have right now.
Right. And it has to be
We
authentic, right? Like it
a
can't be,
hundred percent.
like you said, just show up at the career fair and that's just that will not, I don't think, have those significant effects as the industry needs. So I agree 100% with that. And it's, I mean, it's interesting now to see it become more of a focus, but it would be interesting to see like what the next, 5, 10 years look like in that area. It really will.
And our industry has gotten significantly more diverse, um, but it's still missing at the very top, right? So even just with women, uh, something like 56% of insurance professionals are women. The leadership, something like 14%, right? If we're still in that if the numbers still look like that, five or especially 10 years on the road, we have thoroughly failed, and we will be paying for it horribly when it comes to recruiting efforts, when it comes to our retention efforts, etc. um, we simply can't let that happen. We have to get it right. We have to not only recruit diverse talent, but we have to help them grow.
Mentorship. Yep. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's like it's the recruiting that's really like the first step, right? And then it's that mentorship, that sponsorship, right? Like we get into these roles and then who's going to be that voice at the next level advocating, to get this, whether it's a black person or a female or whatever that might be into that next level of role and really like helping develop those skills too, right? I think there's so many different factors and layers there, but I think just to start seeing the movement in the right direction does feel encouraging. But like to your point, I definitely want to see more, and I want to see what the next few years look like. But I think there's such a diverse pool out there, and even like the interest in insurance. I think that's been interesting to me to see like so many different groups become more interested in insurance and insure tech,
I
right? Like
I
that.
I, I happen to mention women, and it's such a basic part of diversity, right? And and we're still not getting it quite right once you look towards the leadership. It it is important for the leadership to realize that since I graduated college in '06 to today, more than half of college degrees have gone to women, significantly more than half, and that number keeps increasing. Men are falling behind. Okay, so if you're not very good at both recruiting and growing women into leadership, you're gonna be fighting over less and less people, right? You're missing out on entirely too much. There'll come a point where it's a matter of survival. You're missing out on way too much talent, basically. The CSR role, right? The role that handles servicing the accounts. So most of the producers are men. Most of the ones bringing in the business. We need to fix that problem. But almost 100%. It's a ridiculous. It's like 85 to 90% of the CSR and account managers in agencies are women,
Yeah.
and historically they've been women, high school educated women who stay forever
Mhm.
and become the lifeblood of your agency when it comes to retaining business
Mhm.
and getting renewals. Um, and those women are disappearing
Yeah.
literally. I look at our generation. I'm
Mhm.
40 now. I'm
Mhm.
assuming that you're a millennial,
Yeah.
younger than me, but a millennial.
Mhm.
I look at my girlfriend and I look at the women that call into chat with Tony, the ones that I try to recruit for jobs.
Yeah.
That demographic of the high school educated female who will stay at your agency forever disappearing,
Disappearing, yeah.
right? It's a job that needs to be reinvented.
Mhm. Mhm.
And when I was doing the research
Mhm.
for that presentation, what really blew me away is that when you take the aggregate in this was 2022, right?
Okay,
So
yeah.
so in the fall of 2022, the freshman class that started college,
Mhm.
if you aggregate all almost 4,000 schools in the US,
Good.
there's 1.9 women for each guy.
Insane. Almost
It's
double.
insane. For agency owners recruiting,
Mhm.
you you simply cannot
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah. Just
You're not going to have service
mm-mm.
people,
No.
right?
No.
Also, we really haven't talked about remote at all,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm remiss in that.
Mhm.
Remote is a huge deal, and by the way, remote is a DEI issue
Mhm.
also.
Yeah.
Okay, because the research is very clear. Number one, that the employees love remote.
Mhm.
Management doesn't love it, but the
Right.
employees love remote. Number two, they're just as productive.
Mhm.
Now, are they as innovative? Right, we'll have to figure that part
Yeah.
out.
Yep.
But they're just as productive when it comes to actually getting the day job done.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, and not only that, the remote revolution during COVID brought into the workforce a bunch of physically differently abled people
Yes. Yep.
who before were not able to work. Their labor participation actually rose while almost every other demographic has decreased.
Fine. Yep.
And it also kept uh, women with small children in,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So radically important
Mhm.
that we get remote right,
Yes. Transform.
because especially in insurance
Right.
where we don't make widgets.
Yep.
uh, it gives you a huge advantage in recruiting.
Mhm.
Gives you a huge advantage in retention.
Mhm.
It gives you a huge advantage with the younger generation, and it gives you a huge advantage with some parts of the diverse groups
Yes.
that have a harder time coming into the office
Yep.
every day, right? Dear people in the leadership, please remember that our generation does not have stay-at-home spouses.
Yes. It's a
Right?
need.
I think I know two,
Yes.
right? Out of my thousands of like
Yeah.
colleagues, I think I know
Yep.
two
Mhm.
whose spouses are stay at home, right?
Yep.
Like it's just not
Yep.
affordable
Yep.
uh, for a middle class lifestyle in
Mhm.
2023.
Yep.
Uh,
Just where do you see like the biggest opportunity for like A, kind of transforming this industry, and B, just really developing like now, like you said, now we're getting into, Gen Z, like developing Gen Z into A, being interested in insurance, and also like developing their careers in insurance. Like what opportunity lies there?
a couple of years ago, I was very confident in how to answer this question because we were talking mostly about millennials, right? And especially just before COVID, get them the right technology, make sure that they understand the mission, uh, encourage them to get insurance education. The more insurance education they get, the less likely they are to leave the industry, and give them as much flexibility as you can. Casual clothes. Let them work from home once or 2 days a week, kind of thing, and that millennials that works. Gen Z is a lot harder. I don't have good answers yet, honestly. Like in fact, one of the most worrisome things, and I don't have a solution for it. One of the most worrisome things that I'm seeing is the number of Gen Zers, many of them with RMI degrees, who had what looks to me as a fantastic start in the industry compared to my start and compared to most of us, uh, who are 3 or 4 years in and they're disillusioned, and they're either checking if the grass is greener on the other side, or quiet quitting, right? Or just kind of like no longer like actively investing in trying to grow themselves. um that worries me a lot, and I don't know yet, and hopefully it's hopefully it's just a small portion, and hopefully it's just that because I'm visible and I'm a long-haired hippie, and hopefully I just attract a crowd that's more likely to be restless. But I do see a lot of restlessness within our like 2 to 4 year employees who are having such a great start to their career.
Right, right. I think it's that like engagement, like figuring out how to keep them engaged and in meaningful ways, right? Like the ping pong table at the office isn't necessarily like the thing anymore, right? Like I think there's like what's your cause? What's your why as a company and as a,
That's
like those
fantastic.
sorts of things are really gonna be most impactful, I think, to Gen Z. But agreed, I don't think anyone at this point has it completely figured out. But those are just the things that I've I've seen so far.
Yep, I agree with that completely.
Yeah. So no, it'll be interesting to see what the industry holds. But I just appreciate you, coming on today, Tony. This has been a fantastic conversation, and just love, hearing your thought process and you're picking your brain a little bit, and just really appreciative of what you're doing in the industry. I think it's, really needed, and as well as appreciated in terms of just developing talent, speaking your truth, and just being authentic. So thank you so much for joining me today, and hope that we can connect again soon sometime.
Thank you. Absolutely my pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you for listening to the And I Quote podcast, brought to you by Coterie Insurance.
We will be hosting episodes with industry experts on a variety of trending topics this year and would really love for you to listen and subscribe.
Coterie Insurance is on a mission to simplify small business insurance for agents, brokers, and our partners. To learn more about Coterie Insurance and this episode, please visit our show notes below.